You're live.
All right, I will call the meeting to order. We will start with
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before us. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights of privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Okay. Any correspondence, things that you need to?
Yep.
Okay. I guess I'll start with Mr. Schindel. Do you have anything you need to?
I've been doing a little bit of maintenance on the buses, nothing too strong. I had to get another flasher for bus 5 yesterday coming home. Lights came on, but no flashing, so I got that fixed last night after we got back. And bus 2, I'm still waiting to hear about parts for the air conditioner, whatever else they had there, so I talked to them last week when I was in there and nothing's yet, so it only took a few months to get part from my fire truck, so. Everything seems to be working fine. The DEF fluid for bus 3, I've just about got the barrel empty. Should I just leave it? And when I get that done, we'll get it at the pump from now on? Or do you want me to have a barrel sitting there just in case?
I personally would not think it's necessary now that we have the option to get it.
Yeah, that was the main reason why I got the barrel last time, was because we didn't have the option.
If for some reason something goes wrong, the person can always buy it.
Okay. When I empty that, I'll just take the barrel back and say, here, give us credit.
Sound good?
All right.
Okay, any questions, comments? Okay. All right, elementary building project.
Good evening, trustees. Let's go through the projects progressing well. Paving was actually done last week, but it looks like nobody probably saw it because it's all covered with snow. But actually, we're lucky. They got the paving done before the weather hit. They are working on playground equipment. The guy actually had to pull off because of the weather, but we're starting to get playground equipment installed, so that's looking good. Finishes have started in the connector. We should be on target for mid-December for the finish dates. We'll be able to move in and take occupancy of the building over Christmas like we were planning. So I think that's all working as it should, schedule-wise. We're continuing to work on the heating system, which we knew this is actually a good thing that it got cold and we can start working out bugs, but I'll let Rich talk further about that and the commissioning, because we've already started the commissioning as well. IT, we did the big IT changeover. Sean, that's probably what you were probably most interested in this weekend. We did make it through without any major hiccups. So I know that Joe and Luke, which was a big deal because we obviously moving all of that equipment over to those new rooms. So a bunch of cleanup still has to be done, but so far so good. We're connected. We have connectivity, and the fibers is supposed to be finished in the next couple of weeks. So all of our new fiber runs should be.
And that'll cut over in the next couple of weeks after.
Yeah. Contingency wise, we've still got about 14,000 left in contingency. So I think we're pretty good to the end of the project. There's probably some minor things that might pop up, but so far we're holding okay. There's a couple of things that are going to come up on the middle school that we know we're going to want to address on some plumbing issues that was existing that we know we want to work through. And we're trying to work with the school right now. We'll get pricing in and then we'll figure out what that is. Hopefully we have enough contingency. The big topic obviously was the addition pricing. Hopefully, I think it was shared with everybody. It did come in. DAC did a good job of vetting all the numbers, working with the design team and us, and we've got it down to where we thought it was going to be. I don't think we didn't want to ask for a yes tonight because I think we're working on some other pots of money. We need to understand exactly where they're at, and that's not under our control. So Jason and I have been working diligently on that. I think we have everything laid out except for that item. So I believe you guys hopefully have seen what we're working on, but I don't think we want to make that ask yet for a vote until we know exactly where that's at. So with that, I take any questions if there is.
We probably will when we get to that actual item real quick, since Tim did take the time to come. I might just let him have a lot to do. I'm sure he's just itching to address the board.
I'm happy to go now, happy to.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get through the other things real quick.
Is there any questions for me? And then
Yeah,
I can
any
let you.
questions on the current project?
No, I was just gonna ask, is all the performance monitoring, the performance analysis?
Yeah, 1 second, Kevin.
Is all of that, that's all turned on the new networking components?
That I don't.
All the analysis, is Planko running that? All kind of network monitoring?
Oh, network monitoring, they do a little bit of that.
Kind of the performance analysis aspect?
That would be the contractor, I believe.
Oh, and they probably wouldn't run that until they get the fiber in, right? I would guess. We'll get the fiber in.
Yes and no. And they may or may not, just to see if there's any issues initially, and then run that along, definitely after the fiber, yes.
So in the spec, we do have continuity testing of all
Okay.
wiring, so that we should be getting that logged and reported as well.
Okay,
Maybe that's
okay.
what you're referring to?
In part, yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we are expecting that, but I think from what they had to do and get it done as fast as they did,
Mhm.
they had a lot of cleanup because they were in a rush to make sure that it was up and running by Monday.
Okay.
Which Joe
Yeah.
and Luke know that we've got to get all that cleaned up, and I expect continuity logs, so we'll make sure all the wires tested and it's all labeled and all that's in, so.
There's still quite a bit of work that needs to be done.
Okay.
They just kind of did what they needed to do, like Shane said, to get us up and going as best they could, and we ran into very little hiccups. Everything's working
Okay.
out well. So
Okay, great.
And
Yeah.
we'll stay on top of that, obviously, with Joe and Luke, make sure that everything gets addressed that needs to be.
Yeah, always, and I just mentioned because with new installations like that and changeovers, you never know what you're gonna see, and so that kind of continuity testing, you can see a lot of errors, you'd see them right off.
That's what we're hoping to, we're gonna make them do it because it's part of the spec.
Yeah. Okay,
All the wires will be labeled and continuity tested.
all right, thank you very much.
Kevin, what was your question?
Did you post those on Procore by chance?
They are on Procore.
Yeah, they're on Procore. Do you have that, do you still have your access to Procore, Kevin?
Okay, any other questions on the current project? Okay. Yeah, Rich, you'll have the HVAC update.
Yeah, so just to expand a little bit on what Shane was saying about our commissioning control system. We walked through, we had like one classroom was up to 73 degrees this morning. And then when we started opening up the outside doors, that classroom dropped about 10 degrees right away. So basically that whole side of the building where the commons area was a negative pressure. So it's just bringing in all that cold air from outside. So we did a bunch of heat changes to the system that's I'm confident it's going to make a big difference for tomorrow, but we'll still have a lot of fine tuning to do to get everything smoothed out. And the system has intelligence, so once it learns its morning warm up and how to react to temperatures, it'll get smarter on how it does that as well. So a lot of sophistication to get working. And I wanted to shout out to technology because they worked real hard to get the contractors set up so they can see the system remotely. and be able to provide support without being on site and help us through that stuff. On the high school side, we're waiting for those unit ventilators to come in. They came in a couple weeks ago and the contractor really stepped up and got them all installed. So we even have control, and I didn't hear any complaints because I spent all my time in the elementary. So I'm thinking we're doing pretty good, but we got some fine tuning to do over there as well. We're still waiting for the VFDs for the hot water loop pumps, and they're not supposed to be here until December, but that'll be the last thing we're waiting for on the high school HVAC.
And they're tentatively planning to swap that out over Christmas break too.
Yep.
Assuming we get here.
Assuming they get here. And then our roof project that we're doing with the insurance dollars. Even though I've been trying for months to get them to do things sooner, they just kind of put it off. So now they're really paying the price because they can't get heavy equipment in there. They got those long 40 feet sheets of metal. They got to bring a big crew. They didn't come Monday and Tuesday because of the snow, but they are planning to come tomorrow and work through the weekend so they can get that metal roof over the library.
Commissioning. Touch on commissioning that we're going through.
Well, the commissioning is the piece where we made a bunch of adjustments on the elementary temperatures. That building pressure on the one side will make a huge difference because all of those cold classrooms are in the admin area and special ed and commons. So by turning up the pressure, our commissioning agent actually made those adjustments for us today, who works directly for you guys, not part of the DAC team, but they really provide that bridge between the design that looks good on paper and what actually works building performance wise. We turned up the hot water temperature 20 degrees and have it so it'll actually do that when it's 20 degrees outside instead of waiting for 0. Because just, yeah, I could talk a lot about it because I kind of enjoy doing this stuff, but it's kind of technical. So I'll stop and let you ask me questions. You know?
Very good. Thanks, sir.
Yep.
All right. Committee.
All right, so I want to thank Vanessa, oh my goodness. I want to thank Mrs. Flynn, not Mrs. Flynn, and Mrs. Tappelmeyer for coming tonight, who can speak to the room temperature as well.
Yes, I can, so thank you.
Glad to hear your news.
My room was the freezing room.
Yes.
Just
So they went on a professional development experience. They were one of the first to sign up for our professional development opportunity that the board chose to allow through the ESSER funds for professional development. And so I just wanted that opportunity for the board and for all of us to hear about a little bit of highlights of their experience.
Okay, great. Well, we did bring a little handout just in case. So we went to the Literacy Summit, which is put on by the Reading League of Montana, which is kind of a branch off of the national chapter of the Reading League in Big Sky back in September. So the conference was based on the science of reading. The theme was Conversations for Change. And so we didn't know how much you all know about what is the science of reading. Maybe you've heard of it as we were kind of selecting our new reading curriculum. I know it's sort of a word that comes up a lot in curriculum and education. And so basically what the science of reading, what it means when people speak about that is it's this huge, ever-growing body of evidence that research that's been going on for like the past 5 decades and still continues to go on. And it's not just educators that are doing this research. It's, it's psychologists, it's neuropsychologists, it's speech paths and linguistic people, linguists, I don't know what you call them. But all of this evidence is sort of kind of starting to point to the same sort of ideas of how
the brain acquires, how we learn how to read and how to write. And so this is now really coming to the forefront. Like I said, it's not new, but it's really coming to the forefront of education. Because I don't know if you're aware, but as a country, if we look at our country, we really are failing to teach our students to read. And so now many, many schools and many, many teachers are educating themselves about these, about the research, and then transferring that to classroom practice and how we can get these kiddos to learn how to read. And so that, that's where my interest comes in, because I am the K-5 Title I teacher. So I have been working in this school for 8 years with the kids that really struggle the most to learn how to read and write. And so we were super excited to go, and we went, and it was awesome.
So the focus this year, so there's kind of like this simple view of reading, and we put in the reading rope, the last page there. And so really, like at the K2 level, you think that you're spending a lot of time on that blue portion, that word recognition, where they have phonological awareness and being able to decode and encode, and then being able to read those words, having mapped them orthographically. But the focus really of that conference was that language comprehension cannot be left out of that. So you'll notice that red portion, language comprehension, and it doesn't say reading comprehension, because really students have to have the language, the understanding of language, being able to utilize language effectively, understand language effectively before they can apply it to their reading skills. So as we teach reading, we all need to be covering all portions of that reading rope, but the emphasis in those different areas might vary, whether it's practicing through oral language. In your upper grades, then they're applying that to their reading. But the language portion was really a big emphasis at that conference, and that we have to be addressing that really in our pre-K toddler education clear throughout our education.
And that's one thing that I can speak to, working with kindergartners that are coming in. And I mean, I'm sure COVID had something to do with it, but I even saw it before COVID. Kids are coming into school they do not have language. And this research is just showing over and over that oral language is the foundation. It's the key to predicting their future success in reading. There were even studies, I think, that they talked about children as young as 2 years old. If they are delayed in their language development, they will then still be delayed in their reading comprehension when they're in 3rd grade. They can predict it as early as 2 years old. And I am absolutely seeing that every single day, that these kids are coming in with less and less oral language.
Does the board have any questions?
Tom's taking nothing. Why does everyone look at me? Yeah, I got a couple of questions. Several. So regarding this, because I'm a curriculum and instruction person. And I think the first one is, how does the new reading curriculum fit into what you've taken away from this particular professional development opportunity?
So that's something that we tried as a staff to educate ourselves on the science of reading before we went about evaluating programs. So the program that we have in K2, Super Kids, does align to this research with the science of reading. However, studies shows that really teacher knowledge and expertise in the science of reading is going to far outweigh any curriculum. So even though we have a strong curriculum, we still need to have that strong understanding of how the brain learns to read.
So that was the next question, is how do we get that? What kind of professional development does it take to make that happen?
Can you continue sending us to the conference?
it's an
every year.
annual-
It's annual.
Yeah, I know.
Let's send a
It is,
team every
yeah.
year.
Well, I'm game, I'm game.
Yeah. I would say that too, because it was great, but it was only Kelsey and I that were there. Our prickly pear co-op, like our speech path, and they were there. But it was almost kind of like, oh, I wish that other people could have heard the same things.
There was lots of schools there that had brought a whole team, which was exciting to see. Like all of the schools that have the literacy grant right now, they all had teams there. So
And then finally, when you speak to, and I don't want to monopolize anything, when you speak to language comprehension, for instance, what are the aspects of that? Is there sociology and societal aspects, cultural aspects? Are there any other aspects within kind of a language comprehension bucket?
I don't know if I know how to answer that. I mean, when we think about language comprehension as teachers, we think about, vocabulary.
grammar, being able to use pronouns correctly, verb tense correctly. Having the background knowledge to be able to discuss a topic or being able to listen about somebody sharing about a topic and then understand what they're telling you. So I think definitely there's going to be some cultural aspects there for sure that kids maybe have more background knowledge in than others.
Some kids are coming from families that have, discussions, and they learn new vocabulary all the time, and they get experiences where they're going out and experiencing things, and some don't have as much of that.
Yeah,
So I
and
think-
that kind of leads into the thought around of curriculum, as well as considering life experience, and really leads back then to personalized learning, I suspect. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, probably.
That's great, thank you.
Anybody else?
I do, I have a question.
Kevin?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Is there any component of your training that integrated parents into the equation where you're having parents, people are reading at home and beginning reading with their kids at a younger age?
Parent involvement at a younger age.
There wasn't a ton of parent, it was really, the conference was really geared towards teachers and speech and language pathologists at our conference. I will say though, our new old baldy person, Terry, I did share that maybe we should do a parent educational session on the science of reading to give parents kind of an idea of what they could be doing at home to benefit their kids.
That's awesome.
And
We
I would,
learned about that at MSTEL as well. We heard from a school that is doing that with their adult ed to train parents and working with their teachers. And we were all like, oh man, that'd be awesome to do in Townsend. So
I would say you said something about teaching them to learn at an earlier age. They don't need to be taught to read at an earlier age, but they need to have this oral language background, singing, talking, rhyming at home. And then when they get to school on day one, they will be able to learn to read if they have that foundation.
So one of the, I think, challenges that has come to be is when you look at people at the dinner table, like even at the restaurant now,
And they're on their phones.
looking at their phones, and there's a lot less language happening in the homes and at the tables and things like that. And that's sort of, I think there's some research from my understanding and from my experience in schools, that's kind of when we started seeing more language referrals for students and more challenges in our kindergarteners, like the increase in technology and our culture kind of aligned with our language deficit. So thank you guys so much for taking your time tonight. I just really wanted to thank Dana and Kelsey for taking that opportunity. We sent it out to all the staff, and they're definitely have done a lot of the research behind our reading curriculums and taking charge on the science of reading and sharing that with staff. And I thought that it was really good opportunity. I knew some of the presenters. One of them had been here working with the staff before, and that's another option, is that if there's somebody that particular that stood out or something, we can always invite them here to work with our team and utilize our professional development funds in those ways. So I know it was a hard time of year right when school started, and that might have been why
It's a little
not
tricky.
as many teachers signed up.
That could be.
But I appreciate that you went and brought back the knowledge. So thank
And
you
it
for
is
taking your
annual,
time.
so
Yes,
let's send it to you.
thank you.
One final question, what's the number one challenge in your mind in moving it forward?
Moving
Or
what
challenge or
forward?
barrier in number one challenge in kind of integrating the science of reading into education at Townsend.
Honestly, I think it's time and resources to get everybody on the same page and have that professional learning time together and to collaborate where we're not having to come outside of our workday necessarily. I think everybody's plates are very full. So yeah, I think time and resources is probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah,
I think people want to learn.
I agree. I think it's just.
It's just,
all right, well, thank you very much, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah.
thank you.
At least I gave you notice this time. Last time I put her on the spot.
Transportation.
Okay, so Jeremy was not able to make it tonight, but he just wanted to be on the agenda and give you guys some updates. I do want to say that I'm just very thankful for his work and that it has been really smooth. And I called on our first snow morning to make sure that we were doing well, and he said buses were on schedule. And I guess no news is good news, so I hardly hear from him, so things seem to be running quite well. He is interested in looking at some policies and has been evaluating some bus stops and things like that. So we talked just briefly today about making sure we have the whole bus lane plowed, so I will make those phone calls, that things are going really well, and he will attend our next meeting.
Did they make a stop at 266? San Angelo 266?
That has not gone through yet. So that stop and the other stop, was one other one that over the railroad tracks.
Yeah,
That-
down,
Yeah, that is
That's
still
true.
being investigated,
okay.
from what I understand. But we appreciated your research. We just haven't had another transportation meeting, so no changes have been made
Okay,
to that.
okay, thank you, yeah.
Mhm.
Technology.
So there is a technology meeting coming up tomorrow. We have a technology meeting in the afternoon, and then the technology team will be ready to present. We also had a website meeting that went really well. We had a really dynamic team at the website meeting, and we're excited about moving that forward. Casey had a lot of great ideas as she's been working on our HR and employment work as an assistant clerk. And so we want to make that a lot more user-friendly and accessible to future employees. I get a lot of phone calls that people can't find the applications and different things like that. So Casey's been working very closely with Joe on that and fixing that up. And Terry participated from adult ed. We're getting that all revamped, the adult ed portion. And she's also been very enthusiastic about it and offered to help even clean up some other areas of the website. And of course, Sherry was very involved and lots of us at the table with a lot of ideas. So we're making some changes to make the website more user-friendly. Do you have anything to add to that, Joe? Or
I mean, other than that, Terry's been an amazing help with kind of bringing everything together, as well as Casey's put in her 2 cents here and there. So it's been nice to have a group of people that are enthusiastic about the website and are able to kind of point out areas where we lack.
And it's much better if we have a team approach to it as well. Everybody sees different things and different perspectives, and that everything's not just falling on, one or two people trying to sort all of it out all the time. So it's been very, it's been awesome. And I mean, a lot of the new staff that we have brought on board are jumping right in with both feet to move things forward and, not just pointing out things that might need fixed, but offering up ideas and solutions and suggestions and how we can make a lot of these things work. So I think we're headed in a really good direction with that. So looking forward to getting it all synced up here soon.
Mrs. Hartman led a Title I meeting, and we had some good feedback from parents on some things that would be helpful on the website as well. So we brought those suggestions. And I think sometimes it's just hard for us to know where, we put things on the website. It makes sense to us as school people that are using it in our capacity, but then we find out from parents or prospective employees that they can't find the things they need. So that helps, like the team approach and taking in the feedback. So we're excited about that, and then look forward to the technology committee meeting tomorrow. And we'll have that report at the next meeting.
If I can share, just around app development and those kinds of processes. Just something, a couple things to think about. We'll probably share that tomorrow as well, I suppose. Once you get sort of a beta put together, are you going to have some usability testing, some clickstream testing, and things like that around students, parents, and other stakeholders?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. We've been kind of just, discussing them as a team and then making the changes. But that's a fantastic idea.
Well, and the deal is this, being in the computer science area, programmers think about the world differently than users do.
What did we? No, I had this conversation, right?
Just a little bit. Just,
We have that
yeah.
conversation.
So, it's really important to get who's your target market. It's really important to get those target market folks out there looking at the site and providing advice and what you and I might think as what we all might think as school stakeholders might not make any sense to students and parents. That's very common. Those kinds of things are very common. So I sure recommend that.
Appreciate that.
All right, so on to the next three. I'm going to sum up. We do have a work session next Tuesday for the board. And so I think we can schedule those dates at that time, if that's okay with you guys, and you can check your calendars. The curriculum committee, the 22nd is out because we have another item we need to handle on the 22nd, most likely. So I'm not sure if you want to have back-to-back meetings, the 21st and the 22nd, but that would be an option. Insurance and negotiations, we don't necessarily have all the information we need to start those processes. We won't be able to start working with the insurance companies for a little while until the rates come in and those kinds of things, but we are expecting quite an increase and going to be doing some extended shopping this year because of that. At Ensel, we learned there's a 5 to 10% projection in our insurance increases in health insurance, especially pharmaceutical. So we just need to keep in mind, that's why I put them on here, that we need to get together for insurance and negotiations for our teacher wages this year. And then the safety and activities, the agenda items we have for that. Of course, we're still moving forward with our crisis planning, and we need to review our RIMS safety assessment, which I have later on the agenda so we can talk more about. And the activities committee, one of the main things was golf, junior high golf. We wanted to talk about that. So those three, those meetings we can schedule next Tuesday, so we can skip on down. And just want to inform you, there's a library board meeting on December 5th. So I will wrap up with that, and we can talk more about that during our work session next week, if that's okay with you guys.
Hey, Jason. I would, one thing that when you are renegotiating just your insurance, I know that there still is insurance out there that school districts can get that actually have builder's risks still built in. Bluestown is an example of that. So you might think about making that part of your review when you're looking at all the different companies. So I asked them if they have a builder's risk program that's automatically with your premium coverage.
Because we would want it or not.
You want
Yeah,
it.
it's either that or we have to purchase it
Because-
separately.
Yeah, they kicked us off, right?
That was the problem we had. Okay, now
Yeah.
I know the dots. Okay.
So they changed your policy like literally after we'd already budgeted and everything, put everything together for the school. That June, when you guys had to redo your insurance, they pulled your builder's risk coverage out and we had to pay for it separately, which cost, it was
41,000.
40, yeah, 41,
41 something.
yeah. Which previously you had that coverage, which automatically up to 15 million, you automatically had
Okay.
builder's risk. So I would see if you could get that back in. Don't mean to poke my nose in. I would
Thank you.
suggest
No,
do that.
good suggestion.
So Suzie, is there a meeting of some kind scheduled for the 15th? I don't have anything on the calendar.
It's a board work session.
It's a board work, okay. You guys
Yeah.
don't need a space
No.
or, okay, I'm just making sure.
Well,
I didn't miss
yeah, we do
something.
We
need
do need
space.
space.
Okay,
Yes.
where, do you guys just want to do that in the
Community
room?
room,
I think
possible.
it's open 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. Board work session. I didn't see it on there, so I want to make sure I have it over here.
Okay, library board meeting, the last one on that list.
The December 5th.
Okay.
There's a concert that night, so I did remind them of that, so we'll see how many people we get.
Which day is that? December 5th?
December 5th.
It should be, is that that should be the first one.
Yeah, that's a
Middle school.
We're all 5th, 6th, and 8th. Okay, very good. Any questions, comments on the discussion items? Okay, we'll move forward. Consent action items, minutes, and warrants.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve consent agenda items as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. All right, now Tim got away from us.
I know, I was just.
So I'll turn it back over to, I guess, Shane, real quick until if Tim does come back. I did send an email out to everybody, both, last night and then updated it today with the actual bid tabulation that came in from DAC. I did not print it out, hopefully everybody had a chance to look at it. I guess I'll let Shane.
Yeah, originally the numbers were considerably higher. Like I said, DAC did a really good job along with Jason McGibbsey and his team and the mechanical team. And we were able to get all of our numbers in alignment where we think we can move forward is about at the budget that I put forward. And again, I think our biggest concern about not doing it tonight is just, we want to make sure we're cleaned up on one item that we don't have any control over, which it didn't look right to me, and we just got to get to the bottom of that, and we just don't have any control over that. So that's the biggest thing. We would probably ask for a special board meeting because we do want to get the steel on order.
Yeah, that's what Susie mentioned, the 22nd is kind of what I tentatively put in there, is if we could have a special meeting on the 22nd, which is 2 weeks from tonight, to address that item. Because, as you mentioned, we need to get this going, but I personally need to have this straightened out
Myself as well.
before we can do this.
Yeah,
So if anybody has, I guess, questions for Tim, that he's back now, in regards to the actual proposal, I'm completely open with, trying to flesh some of that out tonight if we can. If we have questions, or if there's other questions in regards to, the other items on that email. Otherwise, yeah, my recommendation is we're just gonna leave this, basically postpone it until the 22nd. Hopefully we can move forward with that. Clear, concrete number.
And the primary issue in your mind is around the premium,
The interest
the
portion.
interest, the interest portion.
And it's a confusion or discrepancy between our books and the county's books, and working with the county and clerk and recorder, but of course, being election week, she was not able to help me the last few days the way I had hoped. So I need a little more time. We need a little more time. But that is the question, the interest portions, because the interest portions on those monies have to be treated exactly like bond dollars. And they all come into that. The other thing, I've talked to a lot of people back and forth. I can't remember who I told what. But the other thing that, in my discussion with DA Davidson, because I called Bridget Ekstrom and spoke to her again, she reminded me, year 5, we have to do an IRS audit on the bond interest dollars. So we have to have this number 100% accurate. Right. So we just as well do it right now. Well, we are only on year 2.5, I guess, where we're at. So, but she couldn't help me any further than sending me back to say that we have to get the numbers from the county and make sure that we've allocated them the appropriate way in our books according to what came from, the Board of Investments. That's not the right word, but where our money sits and how that interest is generated.
Yeah, it's all through your STIP, the STIP funds.
Montana, I think I put it in it. Montana State Short-Term Investment Fund is where that money should be sitting. She just was not able to generate that report for me. That is the only question in my mind.
Yeah.
Shane and I have gone back and forth, and we even found a few things today that we had doubled up. I had doubled up on some of the asbestos, and so I actually trimmed a little bit back out of it. It wasn't a huge number, but every little bit counts.
So we do need a special board meeting?
We do need a special
Okay,
board.
just making sure.
And
That too.
if we get this straightened out prior to that, I may reach out and see if there's a earlier opportunity to do that. The 22nd is kind of what
I think that's it.
I hate to set the deadline, but that's kind of working with Tim. He'd really like to see it by then so that we can get moving forward on the steel procurement.
And I apologize, so that, for those who don't know, that is actually your commissioning agent. He works directly for you, and he's still here working for you. So he's still looking at some of your HVAC units over in the addition, so.
Well, good thing you stayed for the board meeting.
Yes, it's an excellent thing.
And they think the county will have information by
I believe it's that
early
22nd.
next week, maybe, perhaps.
I hope to have it by the end of this week, but I didn't want to set the meeting for next week until and we already have the one meeting. And I prefer to keep that one a work meeting rather than co-mingle that with the agenda items. But it could be on.
Kevin, well, Tim's here, and as well as Shane and Rich, did you have any questions? I know you asked or, mentioned the plans, but was there any particular questions about the plans that Tim can answer for you or anything like that?
I do have a question for Shane regarding, you said you had to make some changes in order to get it into the budget.
Yes, we actually went,
In order to get it into the budget, do you have what types of changes you can make and is it, what are they?
the biggest thing that we did change, we are not hooking up to the existing mechanical system. Because we would have to resize the piping all the way back to the boiler. So we went with AEON units, the high efficiency AEON units on this. So they're gonna be a DX gas fired unit with DX cooling. So it's gas fired, it does modulate. So we are not gonna replace all the piping all the way back. That was the biggest cost. It was $100,000 more than what we, took us out of the budget. And then there was multiple items that Tim worked with, getting like our FF&E. I know with the school, we have quite a bit of FF&E that we didn't utilize in one of the rooms because we brought that extra kindergarten on, so we pulled all that. So we had bought larger FF&E chairs and desks, and we had the kindergarten came in, so we were able to pull some of the money out of FF&E and soft costs because we already have a full room of FF&E equipment, so that was one of the things that we pulled back. You know, just those kind of items. The biggest one was probably that the mechanical going to that Aeon on a DX gas fired unit.
Will the rest of the system require, electricity communication? Those systems do have to be integrated?
Yep. Yeah, all those are integrated, all that part is integrated, it's just the mechanical. And the mechanical still being a gas-fired DX Aeon unit, I mean, it's really good efficiency. The other thing is it's really easy to take care of. You know, it's even easier to take care of than a boiler set, you know, which I'm sure you've got experience with, so. Yeah, you bet.
Any other questions on that?
No, it's not.
Everybody, tentatively, the 22nd, look like it may or may not work.
22nd work for you, Kevin? Are you gonna be around for that Thanksgiving week?
I actually don't think I can make it on Tuesday. I don't think I can make it that week, actually. I might have to remote in again or something like that, but I'm gonna go see my kids.
Good for you. It's close to the holidays. Yeah, we can definitely.
They happen to be in Florida, so that works for me.
Nice. We can definitely Google you in if that works for you again.
Okay, we'll
And I'm not,
tentatively,
and I'm not sure if I can make the 22nd night. You're okay.
Yes, sir, 22nd works good.
okay, we'll tentatively set it there, like I said. If we get this thing straightened out to where I think we can move forward faster, I'll reach out and see if there's an opportunity to do that.
Well, it wouldn't take a terribly long time either, I
No, that's why I said, I'm hoping if anybody's got questions tonight, you know, let's get them out there. Well, we got those guys here too, otherwise we'll do the rest of it. It should be short and sweet. Like I said, I fully expect to move ahead with it. I believe that the money is in place to do that. And the one number, in good conscience, I can't move forward until I have a better answer. Okay, very good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Very good.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Okay.
Drive carefully back home.
All right, personnel. Resignation.
Christy has submitted her resignation and she has a letter to the board and I, since she's an employee of the board. Well, I think it is, but. Right?
Okay, I move to approve the resignation, or accept the resignation of Christy Sandry.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Christy Sandberg. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. Okay, employment.
All right, so we have 2 new K-8 educators. So as you know, our numbers have been increasing and we have had classrooms at the cusp or over the state limit. So we hired Vicki Parker for first grade so that we are no longer over the state limit. By 4 to 5 kids, it's fluctuated, which has required a full-time para to be in a classroom. plus another para in another classroom at one point in time. So as the numbers have changed up and down. So that will definitely help. That also helps some of the major issues, that we're seeing right now is in the kindergarten and first grade is the kind of the COVID fallout and those students that waited to come into school. So we have that large bubble, or it could also be because of a lot of new folks in Townsend, right? But we also have some learning challenges because Head Starts and daycares and things were closed for a while, which really impacted kids at this age. So this is a critical time where we think classroom size would really help out. And so we'll be reducing those classrooms to around 16 students a classroom rather than 24 or so in different classes. So that will be very helpful. I know that the first grade teachers will be relieved, and Mrs. Hartman, also allows us to free up paras for special ed purposes and other areas that they are needed. And then in fifth grade, we also had 2 classrooms of 30. So we were at the state max, and 30 kids is a lot in a fifth grade classroom. And especially when the spring hits and you're passing out deodorant. No, I taught fifth grade, so I remember those days. And it will be nice to also, once again, just reduce that classroom size and work on and allow the teachers to have some more in time to really work one-on-one with students and have that dedicated time to get to know their students individually and all of that. Also, to think about that we have new reading curriculums and all of those things that the teachers are working on. It helps a lot to have those smaller classroom size. So that will be a lot more reasonable. And one thing about Brady, who's taking the fifth grade position, she was a maternity long-term substitute in East Helena. So we got her right when she was finishing that up. So it worked out perfect timing wise. And she is more than happy to move classes. She's enjoyed teaching at all levels. And so if we have to move a teacher with those bubble classrooms, she, already volunteered to do that. And Vicki Parker is an experienced teacher that's joining us and is excited to be back in Montana, has worked all over Montana. So we did include the elementary teachers and interview teams, and they felt really great about these candidates. All of the admins joined the interview teams, and we had really good applicants. So we decided to move forward with that and thought it would be a good move for the district. Mrs. Hartman, do you have anything to add? I know this has been something you've been anxious for to occur.
I just really think it's going to be a great benefit for our students because they are very large classrooms. And like Mrs. Hedlund was stating, especially with our first grade kids, it's been really tough for those kids to get the attention that they need with their education. So I think this will be a huge help for them.
So the first grade will make 4 classes of 16. Basically around
Yeah,
that.
about that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot more time for, and same with fifth grade, a lot smaller, so they have a lot more time for that one-on-one instruction that they're needing.
Okay.
And then, so they have already been starting to get to know the staff and visit the school, and we're just hopeful that you will support us in moving forward with this. We had budgeted for these positions. We had the jobs posted. We just hadn't had applicants previously. And we had budgeted for the positions because we were monitoring our numbers. So that was all prepared on the financial side. So we have the part-time public librarian, Caitlin Hahn, substitute Jack Lamb and Jordan Koenig, after-school program tutor Dakota Trinity Wilson, tutor Sydney Forey, and Carson Sangre. I might have messed up the other names. Did I do them all right?
Nope,
Okay.
you're good.
Okay. And so Mrs. Hartman did some recruiting to get some after-school kids, some high school kids involved in the after-school program. That also helps us meet the goals of the grant to have those high school tutors and to have those kids work on their homework. It was really cool. I went in there the other day and saw some of the kids that I work with and that we kind of give some extra support to and things because of different family dynamics, and maybe they have a single parent at home that works until 5 or those kinds of things. And even some of the older kids, and they're in there getting help on their homework so that, when they do get picked up by their parents and it's time to go home, they have their homework done and all of that. So really cool to see that happening in the after school program the other night. So thanks for your guys' efforts working together to make that happen.
Those are two really great high school candidates. I think they'll do an excellent job in those positions should you choose to hire them. Caitlin Hahn, also a former student, she will be fantastic in the library. I'm very excited that she's going, that she came to apply for that. That's a good hire as well. And we've had some of the subs working. Jordan is a student teacher with our English department right now, and she's at the point where she can be approved, as we do with most of our student teachers. They're allowed to do so many days in their program, and so as we know with subs, we are just happy for anybody who is a good human being to be in our classrooms and help us out in those sub positions. So both of these folks seem to be very good.
Yeah, and Jack is a experienced teacher traveling with his wife is traveling for work, and so they're really good find while he's here. We need to put him to work because he's willing. So
Now at the after school program, I've got some great adult work where numbers were getting really large and it was really starting to wear on them. So I really appreciate their patience on trying to get some more help for them. So I was really excited to have some high school kids and jump up and be willing to do this as well. So they'll give us the coverage we need we're bumping 30 kids a night sometimes. So.
Well, I move to approve the hires as presented for the 22-23 school year pending successful background checks as necessary.
I'll second. Mrs. Hedlund.
can I interject? I apologize. I have 3 more that were just added today, which are very exciting. So sorry, I didn't get to them quite yet. We have Amber Harms as kitchen aide, Angela Flores as kitchen sub, and Sarah Baker as morning cook. So I had written them on Todd's because he got here first, so that you guys had those included as well. So that will bring us up to fully staffed in the kitchen for the first time this year, which would be a huge relief. And Ms. Hartman did kind of some PR and put out a post on that, and with the help of Sherry. So we were really excited to get some folks in here for those positions. So
I even had someone comment, they're all excited, saying, see, even the principals in the kitchen helping out. So I'm like, the picture worked, we got some help.
Now we're good, right?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, and I also move the same thing.
Okay, and Kevin seconded it, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the hires as presented for the 2022-2023 school year, pending successful background checks. Any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. One thing I intended to add after the resignation, Ms. Hedlund is going to address the plan moving forward for that in her later discussion. So there is more information to come on that. Meant to add that. So, okay. Policy review. We just have a meeting scheduled.
Yep.
Correct.
We will meet with Chris Goss on December 15th at 5:30. And I'm hopeful that we're getting near to the end of our policies. I can't wait to have them all updated and in a format that we can all work from and reference easily, as well as our staff and parents. So that is very exciting. We're getting there. So
Community room for that one too.
Yes,
Okay.
please. So we're
We do have
excited.
home basketball that night, just so you're aware.
Yep, we are aware.
Okay.
Yeah, we were struggling to find
There are no
We,
dates.
uh,
Dates are crazy right now. I'm just
November
making
and
sure you guys knew
December is tough, but
It is
we
terrible.
have,
Yeah.
we have important work to get
No,
done,
that's
so.
that. Just making sure you guys knew what was happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would ask, with all the policies we've looked at so far, those are all on first reading. They have not been posted to assembly. Would that be true?
Correct.
Or they haven't been, okay.
So
Okay,
anything that we've already covered and I need reference on, I have been contacting Chris and he's been sending me
Okay.
his updated version. So that has been challenging. So like I said, I'm really looking forward to getting it done and having him have us the final package. So, because anytime I need to reference a policy right now, I have to reach out to him.
So with that, have we, and this is just around assembly. Okay, this is around that, not the policy review process. But seems like it was $1,600 a year for assembly. And because we're not using the service yet, or we haven't paid for it yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But you guys approved it.
We approved it, right, exactly, but,
So it's just a matter of a payment that needs to be taken care of.
well, and probably finishing policies so that there's policies on second reading that actually go there.
And yes, and we had that discussion with them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
And then I just put a couple of other policies on there that are going to be part of those upcoming discussions. Make sure that we don't lose track of them. I know they're important that we address. 3510 for school sponsored activities. We are still working on and plan to revise or update as needed. And then we also want to look at policies 3235 and 3231 because we do have some vape detectors that we can utilize in the school. However, we need to make sure we follow the steps of notifying families and putting that into policy before we utilize those. And those are part of our camera system.
Yeah, they
technology
integrate
that came
directly in with
the
our camera
camera
system. And basically, the way they work is they'll flag if there's any kind of vape detected in the bathroom. And then outside of the restroom, you have to be very careful on where you place them, but outside the restroom, you would have a camera that would then pick up anybody that's exiting the restroom following the vape detection. And basically it allows administration to intervene at that point and question the students that were in there vaping.
So whenever it senses vaping, it'll red flag or alarm or send a notification, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think we can even set that to SMS.
Okay.
In the admin team.
You can get a text, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that gives us every reason to believe that they are in possession of that, and we can ask them to empty their pockets, etc.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So then just also another note that, we know that there's forms that we need to update and we've been working on and have been getting legal advice and services on. So the opt-in form for our counseling services, our facility use forms, our applications, those kinds of things. We also have been working on updating and sending some off to either via CLAVA or MTSBA. So you might see some small fees coming through claims on that. So just so you're aware, those are some of them were like from 2014, and we just wanted to make sure we got caught up on some of them. So that's it for that.
Okay, very good. We'll start with the principal's reports. Mrs. Hartman.
So we had our Title I parent meeting, had a really nice turnout compared to year past. And we had some really good, great conversations with those parents and gave us some good feedback. So it was really nice visiting with them on that. Our fire drill and shakeout, the fire drill, we found a few few concerns that will, just because of the construction that we're trying to work around right now, and then once phase 2's done, then we'll readdress again. Had our annual Halloween parade. It was a huge success. I went by the hospital again this year and down Broadway, and at one point Sherry's texting me saying, where are you? Where's the end of this thing? Because it just kept going on and on. So
It was great.
there was a great turnout. We really had a blast with it. So it was really fun to. And then the kids walked down Pine and came back in the door to be greeted with sweets by Mrs. Hedelin. I'm sure the teachers were so thrilled with more candy.
I was the first one to put a candy in there. And I was dressed up as a witch, and one of the kids asked me what I was. So I'm like, what has happened to like traditional Halloween? And then, yeah, it was just the cutest thing ever. So, and then some of them were like, who are you? Because they couldn't. You know how, like, if I see them at the grocery store, they're like, the young ones, like, look at you like she's in the wrong place kind of a thing, you know? They were like, who are you? Because I had the costume on. It was super fun.
We even have a W. Rouser here visiting, and at one point he took one of our students dressed as a policeman, and they went and scoped out the whole building and everything. And I was dressed as a cat burglar, and I told Rouser to let me know they're coming around the corner and try to get him to arrest me. And he's like, no. And I'm like, and he's like, well, she's a cat burglar. No, she's not. She's a cat. I'm like, no, you're a cat. I'm like, okay, I'm a cat. I lost out. So, but we had a lot of fun with them. So, the 21st Century Grant, I went up to the seminar up in Polson, got some great information. We have another training here sometime in November. The actual grant letter of intent opening is December 8th. And so I've got a lot of ideas on how I can reach out for that grant, because we already have a program and we can't, with this grant now, since we have an after school program, we have to supplement it. We can't supplant. And so I've got some ideas on how we can actually make the program even stronger, and hopefully we get this grant to support it. Safe school visit, which was a long, I think 3 hours is what it took just to go through the elementary and kind of visit, but it was really, there's a lot of questions that really go, wow, didn't think about it in that sense of, fashion, so it was really informative. I did email you all the 1st and 5th grade plan. I hope that was clear as far as what and how and why we were doing what we were doing. I didn't hear any more questions, but always I'm open, or reach out if you do have any more questions. That was just a team's idea on how to really help parents and students have buy-in, and hopefully we'll have people excited to, and open to making that change. Part of it I think will be really helpful is that, the kids were really excited to have a new teacher in their room, and they're all excited to meet them this week. They did all start yesterday. And they're just, hopefully the kids are excited maybe they'll also encourage parents, I want to be with this new teacher. So I've already had some parents step forward and say that they'd be open to change. So it's been really good so far. Super Kids, our staff was just struggling with some of the things with their new reading program. And so Ms. Hedelin approved to have an additional training for them. So we just did some Zoom meetings where each grade level met with Super Kids trainer, and they're really grateful for that extra time, just a little bit more PD that they could get to make sure if they're utilizing the program or teaching the program correctly. They just needed that extra support to see what they were doing was correct. And then Branching Minds is that program that we've purchased this year to help with all of our data and keep everything in one spot. We are going to have another PLC training with that, where we have one from each grade level on the 29th, and they'll spend the afternoon getting another 3 hours of full-on training with that. And then we'll actually have some PLC time where I'll take a couple hours in the afternoon and have K2 sit down together, and then 3-5 sit down together. And so we'll just keep working on that program and just slowly building on it, and each year it'll just be stronger, but it's just going to take time this first year.
I would just, I was just gonna mention, if you don't mind, the first and fifth grade plan, I thought that was well thought out. And especially where you're changing, teachers, classrooms in the, kind of a middle of a semester. That's pretty hard for some kids to do, that kind of change. And so thinking forward, visioning forward and managing that change is very proactive thing to do. So I thought the structure seemed like a really great, a great plan moving forward. And then the second thing I would ask is on the 21st Century Grant, you had some ideas on how to approve the program, or improve, I should say, improve. I don't know what it is. And so, what are some of those?
Enhance it.
Enhance it. Yeah.
I'd really like to start taking the kids. I guess it's kind of on that science of reading where some of that part of the background. Some of these kids are not getting some of these, experiences in life, and how can we tie it in with education? And I really think one idea would be to plan some family engagement pieces with kids and take them to, say, a car race down in Belgrade. And then have them apply some kind of learning from it. Could be a math concept. It could be something of that nature, to where we can tie in more family engagement, but also to give the kids some experiences that they may never get, and also have family involved in it to where they can actually take something that they might have learned from it and give more tools to parents as well.
So, and part authentic learning at a elementary level. Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good job. Thank you.
Did you want to talk about any of those dates or events?
We have parent-teacher conferences next week, and Turkey Day is coming up, so we're out early and midterm.
Okay.
Day's parent-teacher conference.
Next week, the 15th.
It's K2.
K2.
It's K2, for those K2, yeah.
Very good. Any questions, further questions? Okay, Mr. Rock.
I've mentioned several times over the last few months about our kind of increasing numbers. We're at over 180 in the middle school, which creates some kind of problems with some of our class structure. We continue to get new students. We've received a couple more here in the last couple weeks. What that does is, you've heard us talk about the teams report where we have to enter all the classroom information and numbers. So in the middle school, due to the way our schedule is set up, we will have, and the requirements of the state, we will be over and have a deviance, what we call a ding, in a couple areas, a couple of our sections. What we do, PE is where our high enrollment numbers are, because the way it's structured, have to have a semester of PE for all students in grades 6 through 8. So half the students are in PE for a semester. We're able to divide the other two up into two sections. They, like for instance, in 8th grade, where our issue is, they have a speech and drama class for a quarter and a computer class for a quarter, and then those will rotate. So we will be over the 30 mark in those, and you cannot alleviate that overload in grades 6 through 8 by putting a para in there. We actually do have some paras in there, but that does not relieve the overload according to the requirements. So just so you know, that'll be an issue, and we're kind of at a situation now where, looking at our class numbers, we're obviously averaging over 60 per grade level. So that's going to be, as we move forward, something that we need to probably look at some way to address in the future.
Can I ask, how would, in that situation, how do you resolve that? When you can't put pairs in the classroom.
Correct. There is no resolution.
There is none.
You take the deviation basically, or
And you have to hire to offset.
And which is, so Office of Public Instruction will generally
allow some of those as long as you are not doing it repeatedly. So if the next year, you have the same issue, then, there could be some things tied with it you need to show you've done. And we've been in that boat before. We haven't been in where it's been a repetitive cycle. Generally, we have one large group that comes through, you get those bubble classes and then you're good for a while. And so yeah, it's something that we'll have to probably get creative with or whatever over the next, course of time. Find some different ways to do that. I don't know exactly right now what those answers are. And very frequently, our numbers, I think we've seen in our school, our numbers fluctuate a lot. There's been years where we've made some contingency plans for very large groups, and then by the time school goes around again, that number has dropped significantly. But our current trend obviously is for those numbers to decline. So we have some very large class sizes all through the middle school. It's unavoidable, the numbers we have and the staff we have. So not much you can.
Well, and I apologize for a follow-up, Brad. The K-8 educator licensing, so I'm familiar. Help me understand. The K-8 educator licensing structure then, does that mean there's special licensing for 6 through 8, for 5 through 8, or is it totally K-8?
So,
and what about the discipline specific piece?
If you have a K-8 elementary endorsement, you can teach anything, any subject K-8.
Okay.
Being eligible to do that and that being your best option are not always the same. If you, for instance, a math or for that, even anything, if that's something they're not familiar with, as you get into higher level material, it gets a little more difficult. But there's also a 5 through 12 endorsement for many of those, and a lot of our math and science and histories fall under that 5 through 12 licensing, which then would allow them to teach any grade, 5th grade through high school. So, and that's the boat we're in with several of them, and those are very specialized by area.
The 5th through the
5
5-12 is
through 12
okay.
is specific mathematics or science or whatever.
Okay. Thank you very much for.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry. One of your teachers actually asked me this week, they were wondering the out-of-district students we have, if we have ever considered denying them to come here. But I was thinking just because of overcrowding, but I think we can count on one hand, the out-of-district students we have, can't we?
I don't know that I could answer that off the top of my head. How many? It's not an overwhelming amount by any means. There's some, we used to charge, and I probably some of the members of the board could address that better, but we used to have a tuition fee for those students. That was waived several years ago, in part because our A and B.
We were looking for the A and B portion of it.
Yes. And so that's how that practice came to be. You could, I believe, I guess I would say if you start, you almost need to, if they're a special education student, you have to educate them wherever they are. I mean, they can come knock on the door and you are required to do that, or at least that may have changed a little bit. I believe that if you're going to run into some real problems if you either don't allow any or you allow them all. If you start trying to decide whether or not this is a student we want here, that becomes an issue. I believe there could be some issues with that. Some schools do that. They look at each one individually as to whether or not they're going to allow that student to attend. and other schools just do not allow that.
How the hell is-
Basically gone to a closed district
Well,
policy.
of interest on that, there was a bill draft that was thrown in at the state legislature to close districts, to require closed districts statewide. So that went in about 2 weeks ago. And I know living on the north end of the county, there are quite a few kids in my neighborhood that go to school in East Helena. And there's a parent, teacher, student group that is kind of had some discussions before all of this, because East Helena is actually looking at closing their district, which they have not done, in the past. So I had to throw a number out. There's probably 10 kids in my neighborhood that are between 3rd grade and probably like freshman, sophomore in high school that, that may be affected by that. But yeah, that was something it's funny that topic came up, because that was something that I was going to mention, is that that bill draft request has, so that means actually a legislator has introduced the bill. The bill is currently in with legislative services being drafted, and once the outcome of tonight happens, just because about a third of the legislature is always in re-election right now, or election, that bill will probably end up moving forward, getting introduced, and will be a part of the legislative process. So that's something that we may have to, address one way or the other. We may end up, if it passes and we do have closed district, then we will have an influx of students. I would imagine probably particularly from the north end. But,
Yeah, and traditionally, most of our students from out of district have been from the north end, partly because it's, it's a long haul from the south end, quite honestly, and a long haul from the east side. But we have, over time, had a few from all of them and a few from different places. Again, I don't think it's an overwhelming amount, and we've had some, a lot of those students have been wonderful students to have here. And, I don't know how I feel about any of that. One of the things I'm concerned about, I think I've seen over and over and over and over and over and over, and I could go on, and places where there's attendance regulations and state entities do not do anything to enforce those. There's always a way around it. And so if you want to go to school bad enough somewhere, you can do it, and nobody's really going to do anything about it.
There was an article in Friday's paper in regards to Three Forks closing their district, and that may be where some of the question came from. And that they've been a closed district in practice, and just basically are updating their policy to match, because they were starting to have some enforcement issues.
I was gonna say, it sounds like they really are starting to enforce that now. That's what
But,
our principal says.
and I visited with, their board chair a little bit about it, and just to get an idea. And, I probably shouldn't speak too much, but they're allowing the ones that are there, like of ours, to be grandfathered in, that, whatever date they accept this policy, which I think is second reading sometime this month. But from the state perspective, it sounds like they're gonna say you have to move, one way or the other. But so that would be interesting. Whereas, like I said, Three Forks is actually allowing the ones that are there currently to stay, but then they're cutting it off.
Well, and that whole subdivision on this side of like Wheat, Montana.
No, but see, our school district line is up on top of the hill.
It's up on the hill. It's up on like the Wheat, Montana.
The 101 road is
the
the school district.
Okay.
Same as the fire district.
Okay.
Well, one of the, I guess, a word of caution I would put out to anybody is everybody's in favor of closing those districts when they're crowded.
Numbers are high, yeah.
But I can tell you through the course of 30 years, the landscape of education and population and everything changes a lot through the years. And there's been times where our enrollment's been very high in this district, and our enrollment's been down, and we have certain segments right now that certainly aren't high. And, I think those people, if you live in the High Line or somewhere, you're probably begging for students right now. Or some of those places that haven't benefited from the influx of residents like some of us in Southwest and Western Montana have. So it's, in Montana, it's hard to make a
blanket.
I just think there's things change over the years, and you can look at the enrollments. You'd be shocked at some of these schools as you look at their enrollments up and down over the course of decades.
So my takeaway is, given Vanessa's comment, in question, that it sounds like if the district were closed, we'd actually gain students. Would that
I think
be?
it could
It
go both
might
ways.
be, yeah. Because if there's that many up north, I wouldn't imagine we'd have more than a handful, a dozen that transfer or that come in right now from that district.
Yeah, I'd say that we have more, I would assume, which is hard because I haven't been here long enough to know, but I know we do have a influx of out of district right now. I think part of that is the large number of families that are kind of, wanting to escape some of the bigger, with the growth on our neighboring districts. So, yeah.
We get a lot of students, parents want them to come here because they want the small school experience. And I don't know what point that small school experience.
Where does that
is,
change?
but
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, we're still a small school.
We got an influx. I mean, not a lot, but a few because of the way we handled COVID compared to some of the AA districts nearby as well.
Another thing one of my responses would be is I think a lot of people, I like to think that Townsend has a good reputation in neighboring areas as being a quality school, and that's why we have people here that, want to come here, and it's a good thing, I think. I mean, but yeah, that's an interesting idea, and there may be a time where you guys think it's necessary to do that based on space and
I think
I think that's where the discussion comes, is space and staff and everything else.
And I think this teacher was just wondering if it was something we'd ever even talked about.
Right.
Yeah, I actually remember having the conversation when Eric was here. I think it was more about the tuition side of things, but at that point we were gladly accepting the A and B portion of it because that itself was such a benefit.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if the current growth rate, that might be a decision
Right.
we have to make at some point.
Interesting conversation.
Yeah, that was a
it
long
is, it
answer.
is.
I don't know if anybody
That's good.
answered it, quite honestly, but that's why I'm an administrator. I can talk a long time, not give an answer. We did have a Halloween party. We did limit that to people who are in the district, live somewhere around here. We had a very good turnout. It's turned into a really fun night for the students, and largest one, I mean, obviously our enrollment's up, but largest one we've ever had. It was a great turnout. Good deal for the kids. Our first quarter academics, we had our usual number of students on the honor roll, and our 4.0 numbers were about where they always are. One thing that was a little concerning, I had a few more students on the struggling end than what we generally see when quarter breaks. Working with some of those students, and one of the things you see too that's really interesting is students move. And I'm not saying that all the students that move by any means are the ones that struggle, but an interesting thing you find out as people move is, when they move from one school, it's even not necessarily within a year, but even over the summer, schools do things in different ways. And so it's not always easy for students to pick right up, and especially in subjects that build on themselves, like math. And we're starting to find, as we have a more, a higher level of students that are coming from other places, we're finding that either they're up here or here, and we're right in the middle because everybody goes at a different rate. And we're having to, I think we're seeing a higher number of students now that are either coming back into school after all of our mess over the last few years, or that have transitioned from other places that need a little academic support. So that's just kind of an interesting observation. And you see it, I think, as you see, students start to move from school to school a lot. And then finally, Shakespeare in the School on Friday came and gave a performance of Macbeth. I don't know if you're familiar with Shakespeare in the School. They've been coming here and doing a performance for the middle school for as long as I can remember. And it's really a fun thing because we do we make sure every student in the middle school is familiar with the play. We've done it at all grade levels, and done some projects with it. And then those actors stay and do some workshops with them, acting and communication things, and it's a pretty good deal for them. This year, they're so busy, they're kind of getting back out in the schools after absences. They had to give kind of a truncated version of the workshops, only the 8th graders, they were only able to do the 8th graders, but it's a really fun thing, and the kids seem to, for the most part, enjoy it. And one of the keys is having done that work beforehand, because if you've ever watched Shakespeare, it can be or read it, if you're not familiar with it, it's easy to get lost in it. And one of the things they do is they kind of put it in a little more modern deal, but that background knowledge with them helps tremendously. It's well spent money and a good day for them.
The sophomore classes even joined and watched the play this time, and that was really fun too. They really enjoyed that. So that was good. Great event.
Yeah, it's good.
Well done.
And I see that, I believe, kind of a offshoot group, the Shakespeare in the Parks, I think, is giving a performance next week at the Lodge here in town, which is, I just happened to see a poster for that today. It's really
You're not
good.
going to do it in the park?
I guess not. So if you've never seen them, it's really,
It's
they
really
really
great.
do a good job. They do.
Park's a little
They do a
chilly
good
this
job.
time of year.
And you can see, man, the absence numbers, especially with one group, went up.
I was comparing yours and mine, and I'm like, the honeymoon's over.
Yeah, and we really have had a lot of students that are out sick for several days at a time with, non-COVID related things. There's been some other bugs going around that have really knocked students out for multiple days, is where those numbers come from. And hunting season never quite
And senioritis.
Part of living where we live.
Hunting season and senioritis.
Very good. Any questions? Very good. Thank you, Mr. Rock. Mrs. Everin.
All right, just a couple of quick shout outs as some activities are finishing their seasons or close to finishing their seasons. We had our cross-country team have their state competition since our last meeting over in Missoula. It was great. It was the Saturday after our MCL, so we were all there anyway. So it was great just to truck on over to the golf course and watch the kids run. They did fantastic. There's 40 plus teams there. We ended up boys and girls finishing 8th and 10th, so that was amazing. That's great for our kids, and we had our senior Justine Santee place 11th overall, so fantastic. That's a really good showing at the state cross country meet. Kudos to Coach Dolan. She does a nice job with that program, and it's just growing and growing and growing for us all the time. So happy for their end of the season. Football team wrapped up. We had the first playoff game here, and didn't end as we weren't in it as long as we were hoping to be. Lots of injuries for us here at the end of the season, unfortunately, and with the small numbers in football this year, it had a really big impact. But they played tough, and just a great group of young men and coaches. And I know they would have preferred to be in it for a few more weeks as well. But kudos to them on a really good season and just a great group of individuals. Volleyball is still in it to win it. They survived divisionals and came out in fourth, and so we are headed to state volleyball at Montana State University here on Thursday. They play at 10 o'clock, so come on out and support the Lady Bulldogs. We're excited to see how they finish up the state tournament here in volleyball. So looking forward to that. We'll be planning on taking a pep bus. I think we have enough kids signed up now. We really discussed taking the band or not. It's a tough deal in the field house with all classes because the band cannot play if there's any action going on any of the four courts. So pretty much the band can't play. I mean, really, there's stuff going on constantly. So we had a discussion about that and decided we'll just throw them on there as, you know, pep riders and back the cheerleaders and make some noise that way. But the band probably not going to go. So that's where we kind of are with that. It's unfortunate, but because a nice job with the band and the pep band. Mr. Conroy's doing a really good job with that program as well. Kids are sounding good. FFA also, they kind of just kind of ties into FFA Nationals. I was honored to be invited to join them to go to Indianapolis to the National FFA Convention. Holy cow. I was like, whoa. I don't think
There's a lot of blue and gold jackets.
Oh my goodness. So basically they take over downtown Indianapolis, not even kidding. Everywhere you peek out of a window, there are FFA jackets everywhere. At the beginning opening session, they filled Lucas Oil Stadium where the Indianapolis Colts play, and they filled the stadium, and it is just a sea of blue and gold. So that was really great. They had some great speakers. And then the kids go and do their competitions. We had a Parley Pro team there. Great experience for them, super competitive. I watched those competitions and just went, holy moly, these kids are sharp. So, and they were from all over the United States. So that was really, really fun. Our kids did well. It was an excellent learning experience for them. We had a pretty young crew, and so it'll be good for them to go back and capitalize on that experience later on. So fantastic experience. It was fast and furious and really fun. That 6 a.m. flight Saturday morning was whoa, but that's okay. We got back, so it's good. We have been working with the Bradwater County Sheriff's Office. Detective Rouser approached us about doing a presentation on suicide prevention and then touching on a few other aspects that we're seeing. You know, obviously we have concerns with social media use and, you know, being appropriate in that use and just giving kids some tools in their toolbox about what, you know, things that will get them in trouble and how to avoid those things and, you know, be responsible young adults. And then obviously, you know, we know the stats on suicide in our state, and whether it's young people or adults or any of those things, it's always a very important topic. We always do a suicide prevention thing in the high school on its own, but to have an outside, one of our community agencies come and partner with us on that is a really good deal. And so we're very excited. We appreciate Mr. Rouser's dedication to that particular topic. And so he's going to come present. We decided as a admin team that we would, and counselor team, that we would have him. He's going to do a parent night on the 29th of November. So we will roll that out and advertise that out so parents can actually come partake in that, because so much of it is on the parent side of things too, you know, looking for signs and how to make sure your kids are, you know, interacting appropriately online and all of those different things with their digital footprints and those things that we talked about. So, and then we will have them, have him present to 7 through 12. And we decided to break those into smaller groups instead of the big assembly format, kind of a smaller group setting with like 7th and 8th, and then the 9th and 10th graders and the 11th and 12th graders. So we'll do that the next day. We're working on scheduling that out, what works best for the high school classrooms and the junior high classrooms. So we're excited about that. That's going to be a good partnership with our sheriff's department. We also obviously had the end of quarter one, really happy with the performance of our students. It, as I stated at some of the earlier meetings, it just feels like, we're returning to a good energy and a good feel in the high school here between the students and the staff. They are performing well. We had far fewer students on the failing list at the end of the quarter. I was really happy to see that. So things are going well. Pretty happy with the kids' dedication. We did go back to, discussing attendance, because as you can see, attendance took a big dive for us too. And Brad's right, there's a lot of sickness and some of those things going on as well. But just rolling out, more awareness of parents, hey, your student is, you're at the max here for days that have been missed and everything already, so that we can encourage them. And actually had some really, after sending out letters again, we had kind of paused that with the whole COVID situation. Had a lot of very positive parent contact this last week saying, okay, talk to me about this, show me this. I had a parent walk in and came to vote that came in and said, we got a letter, show me what's going on. So that's really good. Those are positive interactions and parents taking note of the importance of their kids being here at the school. So happy to see that today too. Lots of activities still coming up. Like I said, we're wrapping up postseason. State volleyball at MSU Bozeman Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We also have, as we did last year too, MSU's crazy this weekend. I don't know if they do this themselves. They have the John Deere Ed Days there as well. So everybody's in Bozeman this weekend. It'll be a busy time in Bozeman. All of the holidays coming up. I spoke to the suicide prevention and social media presentation. We do have the fall play coming up, just to put a few more things out there a little bit. It's going to be the first Friday and Saturday in December, 7 p.m. They are doing Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I believe. So some adaptation of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Looking forward to that. Denise does a nice job with that program as well. And then we'll have our concerts following that. We have the middle school concert the 5th, the high school concert the 6th, and then we do the elementary concert on the 8th, an hour earlier. So rolling into the holiday season, fast and furious.
I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for the invite. So we'll schedule that. We'll schedule a visit right before Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving, and I'll kind of take a look at my schedule as well. But thank you very much for the invite. I appreciate it.
Good, yeah.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Any of you are welcome anytime.
Might put you to work.
It's what I do.
They're tired of seeing me. They'll probably gladly look at
Yeah, but I would encourage all of us to visit per the policy. We can visit, and we should, and, check out classrooms and all these kinds of things, and see what you're doing, and check the challenges, all those things. That's our business. So thank you very much again.
Sure, and seriously, you guys are welcome anytime in our buildings. So just
A lot of great things happening in the classrooms for sure. It's fun to watch.
Very good.
All right.
You're
Well, you guys did a fantastic job and covered lots of my items, so that's excellent. We're all on the same page. I have not gotten news from the ELC grant yet. They were verifying that we spent down 80% of our previous funds, which we had obligated, but we have. They are still housed at the county to some regard, so we have to get that cleaned up and make sure that doesn't prohibit that from moving forward. We did receive the town pump grant for the snack pack program again, so that's very exciting. And Casey and I sent a thank you letter, so thanks for helping me put that together to them for providing us with that so we can keep that critical program going. And I believe Mr. Rock, did you guys take over some of that in you have some middle school students, or is it your son that's working on that now, or how did that happen?
I think so, yeah. I
Okay.
think he helps.
His son and someone else.
Mrs. Hartman and has some students, excellent, to make sure we get that food to those families that need it for the weekends. So Kay's retirement party, we had all planned out, and food and fun things ordered and planned. However, we've had to cancel. So she had an unfortunate accident. She will be okay, but we have to postpone her retirement send off. So if you have that on your calendar, you can take that off. And then she, of course, called from the hospital to talk to us about her book club to make plans for that. So she's very dedicated and plans to continue her service. So Terry and I have met with her about continuing her adult ed programs with book club and others. So that's nice. We already have a meeting scheduled to talk about evaluations and formats next week. So we'll skip that item. The team's report, the due date was moved, so we do have a little bit more time to clean up some components and look into those different sections like Brad was talking about and evaluate and do some more things. So we will get that submitted when we need to and get that completed.
And
But-
what's in the teams? What all different aspects?
Yeah,
of it?
so first the TOES has to get completed, which is part of what the clerk's job and duties is to enter. So it is how our FTE is outlined, so that teachers, how they're split between schools. And so if we have a teacher that teaches some middle school courses, for example, we have teachers that teach some middle school courses and some high school courses. We have to have that broken out in the TOES portion of the report. And then in teams, it gets more specific. So we have to account for licensure to make sure that the teacher is certified for the areas they're teaching as part of the teams. And this all funnels into create our accreditation standing, right? And then also that we're meeting all the requirements by grade span. So those requirements of number of students per classroom. So all of these different data components. So there's a portion that the clerk does, a portion that each principal does, and then I go through and finalize and submit.
We report all the CTE stuff, we report all of the dual credit classes, all of those things.
There's so many components.
There's a ton of, all of the Indian for all, it's.
How we are, even as far as like professional development we're providing for staff. I mean, there's so many different, it's kind of the catch-all because it's determining our accreditation. This is one of the things when we talked at MSAL, some sidebar conversations. I believe you were part of one of them at the table I was at when we were talking about the ARPA funding that OPI currently has and the data modernization that we're all hopeful that they're working on. Other states have a statewide system, like we use Infinite Campus, and other states have a statewide system. So all that data is already in our system, and now we're going around and each entering it into a report that we submit so that they can do this analysis, right? So, and those other states, the state already has all of that information. And so this, when the TOES and teams first came out, was actually my first year as a superintendent, and there was a lot of folks, kind of like we saw with COVID, that retired all of a sudden from administration. They were like, we're not going to go there because it is a lot of work.
It's very time consuming because you literally have to figure out every minute for every classroom that teacher's teaching.
To meet the criteria, so to speak. Yeah.
And it is in the program.
Yeah, we've already entered it.
Yeah.
We've already all entered it in different places, and then we have to go find all the information and put it into this report. So it's frustrating on the admin level. And so hopefully that goes away at some point once OPI gets their systems updated.
Well, and just an update on that, the last I heard was really not a lot, and it's been a long time ago because I was I guess the database director who's received at OPI, who will have $14 million of funding to develop this project with, and they have like 60 different databases with 16 different logins, and so they're looking at a portal system and bringing together all of those systems into some kind of, at least mostly a singular kind of comprehensive system, which would tie directly, which this would be all pulled from, all that data be pulled from that. They've got the data out there, everything's sitting out there, but the last I heard is that they haven't moved forward hardly at all with that project. So I haven't heard anything from Michael for about 10 months on the project. And that's the guy kind of leading it up. So I don't know what's going to happen and when.
Yep. And if you would like to know, there will be a presentation to the Board of Public Ed because we've requested one to see what is happening with this.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
I will forward you and the staff the agenda as I do before my Board of Public Ed meetings to see if anybody has any questions I can bring or any comments. So and if you want to zoom in to that portion of the meeting, it's in Bozeman next week.
Okay.
We did request an update from OPI on that project.
And I'll probably reach out to Michael too and just see what, and then compare and contrast both sides of the deal.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they're presenting. So someone from his department will be presenting.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. So yeah, that's been a lot of work. So thanks to these guys for working on that, and we'll get that finalized and sent off. Super excited about your support tonight to employ our new list of folks and get the kitchen some help. Just really thankful for the dedicated staff we have that put in extra work and just worked extra hard. Well, we've been short-staffed in the kitchen, custodians. Of course, everyone has just stepped up so much over this last year. So whether it was through COVID last year or through the building project or that kind of thing, I mean, the tech team's doing their usual work plus the addition with all the additional technology. And of course, I have an amazing admin team that I couldn't do it without, that, we meet on Mondays and kind of go over whatever we need to do and work as a team to cover games and classrooms and events and work together. So I'm really thankful for that, but appreciate the additional teachers and kitchen help, and all that will really make a difference and hopefully improve climate and atmosphere and all of that, as well as, actual food service and things. I know Vicki is very passionate about her job and wants to provide those top-notch meals the best we can for our students, but some of that was really challenging when we were so short-staffed. So moving forward, and now we're shifting into going into recruitment mode for the custodial staff to try to get them staffed up. So we'll be doing some posts, and we put out a position for what was it called? Cleaning sanitization specialist, cleaning and sanitizing specialist, hoping we might attract a different audience that maybe wouldn't, apply for a custodian position, but a cleaning specialist they might find interesting. So it's along the same lines and pay, just so you know, I'm not just creating a whole bunch of new positions, but trying to attract some different applicants possibly. So then onto the U of M Safe Schools Center, we had an incredible site visit, very detailed, very thorough, from the Safe Schools Center, and every one of the admin. Thank you for taking that time out of your day to walk them through your buildings, 3 to 4 hours with each of you. Quite a bit of time with me, same a few hours each day, and then a few hours with the tech team because of the cyber and tech security and cameras and all of that. Also a Jim. She had a lot of questions and spent a lot of time with Jim on all the facilities and exterior components and that sort of stuff. So that is going to give us great information for how we move forward on our safety and crisis planning and prevention, and provide us kind of with a report of where we're at, and then recommendations for where we need to go and next steps and resources for that. They operate under a grant, and so all of their resources and services are at no cost to the schools. So they have even counseling services that they do through Tele. They're full right now, but I got us on the waiting list. So hopefully next year we might be able to access that for higher level of care than our school counselors can offer for mental health, and just so many different cool next steps. So,
Excuse me one quick.
yes.
That will generate an actual written report, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
And she would like to present that to us, of course, the first or second week of December. I don't know if we could possibly pack in another meeting.
About 5
we-
a.m. I think looks good.
I know that email that has the
I
dates.
think
I was
we're
like,
all-
well, that one's out, that one's out,
I
that
think
one's
we're all
out.
gonna spend pretty much every night together in December already, so we might have to wait until January. But so we'll work on a date for that, as we talked about earlier. I think somebody already mentioned, but we have the bus safety drills coming up on the 16th. Mr. Rice and other folks will be helping us with that. I noted that I will be at the Board of Ed. It is the 17th and 18th as well. So I will be leaving Thursday and Friday that next week for the Board of Public Ed. So those dates are a little bit off on the agenda here. And of course I will stay in touch with everyone. I have my laptop open during those meetings, and I usually call the admin and text them frequently. And then also I've always checked in with Christy at lunch and after my meetings. So I still make myself available, and will continue business as normal. And then I mentioned also the 29th, our presentation with the sheriff's office. And so that night of the 29th, parents will have a chance to see the content, and then they can choose to opt out. And even if they don't come on the night of the 29th, it'll be an opt-out opportunity, because some of the content is, it's really important, it's really realistic, but some parents might choose to do that work on their own, or not quite want it presented in that way to their students. Or, some families, it could be a trigger for, if they've had suicides in the families or any issues like that. We just want to make sure people have the chance to view the content themselves before the kids see it. But we got to see the presentation and thought that it was really great and really relevant. So that will be great for the kids. Another thing that I wanted to touch on was that we do have a plan to move forward. I do need to get the plan rolling and make sure that staff are aware of the plan. People are already starting to ask, and it's a very critical part of our operations and business here at the school. So with Christy leaving, we do have a plan. We will have an interim clerk coming in next week, and there are a few clerks that we have reached out to for that service. Of course, you guys will be part of that discussion and helping me make that selection and approving that person to come in and do that work in the interim. So just seeing who's available right now for us to choose from and select from. And then Masbo will be here next week as well. Steve will be here next week. And he will be working on multiple things, making sure that things are getting taken care of and getting payroll started and continuing his training that he's already started with Casey last month. So we do have a plan in place for those things to occur, and payroll will be on time and handled. And then the clerk position is posted internally for its 1 week. And then at our work session next week, I will be able to present to you any information on the internal candidates, and you can make a decision to go from that or open it to external at that time. We have a new clerk contract in the works, and as you know, we're working on the policies which will relate to that position, which we need to clean up to move forward. And I had a conversation with Shelley Turner today, the director of Masbo, and she said I wanted to confirm that there was no immediate deadlines or anything that I needed to be aware of or would take an extra lift. And she said that it's a good timing wise. There's no major deadlines until January when we need to get like 1099s and kind of those things out that have to do with tax season. So we don't have any unusual, like we got toes done and those kinds of things. So we should be in pretty good shape as far as that goes. So there will be a lot more information to come as we move forward. That's just a high level overview. And I will make sure to get that information out to staff. We were hoping tonight to be able to share some information with you about the interim clerk, but we didn't get quite far enough today. So is there anything else you can think of that I didn't cover on that? Did you have any questions?
I don't think so. I don't.
Or anything
We
down?
probably should have done a formal introduction. but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very grateful that we have our assistant clerk that has
Yes.
been willing and able to step in and fill in here momentarily while we work on those next steps. And so we're very grateful that she's here and able to do that. So.
Yeah, and so that's nice. Like obviously we're able to have minutes taken for our board meeting tonight. Casey's gonna be, also helping keep business going. Is gonna be entering bills as they come in, is going to be getting things prepared for payroll. And we had a lengthy meeting this morning to go over kind of what we need to get accomplished and what we can get done. In the meantime, while we're waiting for the interim and Steve and what we can work on and get accomplished. So that's what we spent quite a bit of time on today. So yeah, I'm thankful for the energy and for your willingness to jump in and do what you can during this transition period. So I appreciate that.
Susie, I have a question.
Yes.
As far as the internal posting and the advertising for this clerk position, is there a component of training that's going into that as far as looking ahead with bringing in actually probably 2 positions there now? Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Job advertisement goes out. As that goes out, the expectation and part of the job duties is to complete that training. Is that explicitly stated in there?
So
That you're posting?
in the internal posting, I've noted that the complete job description is available at the office, and we do have a current complete job description. However, I am also massaging that. I just got that posted, so that is part of the plan, is to make sure that we have that accurate.
Okay.
And
As far as that job description, I think the training would be a big component of that.
yeah,
And they need to know that ahead of time. They should probably also know that ahead of time that, especially in the beginning, it's not going to be a 40-hour-a-week job, or it hasn't been for anyone really. Does that make sense? Or are you going to try to divide the duties of those 2 positions?
correct. So we would still hope to have a clerk and an assistant clerk.
Yeah.
Yep, and divide those duties. And we will hope to use our interim services to get, the things that we need taken care of in the meantime, so that this person can start with those positions divided and work the 40 hours.
Okay, so it will be a 40-hour-a-week job.
Yes.
I know that was an issue before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And there's a few other, decisions to make that we will be discussing as we go forward. Like the Medicaid billing, for example, if we're going to outsource that, or if we have the capacity to take that on, depending on the people's skill sets, or if the interim person can get us started on that in the interim, and all those different components. So I have
Pam Watson, that's going to be your interim clerk.
We have reached out to her, so we're waiting to hear back.
She did the Medicaid building before.
Correct. Yes, so we were waiting to hear about her availability before we move forward.
Okay.
I do also have a list that I got from MASBO and through colleagues I reached out to of clerks that do contract work, like retired clerks that come in and do contract work around the state. Yep, and then some of them are already tied up in some different locations, so I made notes of that. So I have a little list going of others if Pam's unavailable.
All right,
So
thank you.
we're hoping to hear from her regarding that tomorrow. And then yeah, I have a whole list of things I've typed up and notes I've written, but we'll definitely be diving deeper into this. So
Okay, great.
yep.
I guess the other question is on this accounting with the county on the bond money. If we should reach out to the commissioners on that to see if, because the county does have support through what is it called, MAC? Something. It's I know where their building's at.
Mako.
Mako, yeah.
Mako, yeah. I'm sure they could probably help them out and get that number dialed in for us with a pretty high level of confidence. But we might have to reach out to the commissioners to get some resolution to that question.
They're on my list, Kevin. Yep.
Okay.
I would
To have any degree of confidence in that, I think that's what we need to see there.
I would also mention that I know that Melissa Franks has resources through the Montana Schools County Superintendent Organization and works with them. And then also, it's not just on the county's end. We have to figure it out on our end as well. So that's another component of it. So we have to figure out, like, there's discrepancies. We don't know that it's not just the county that needs to work it out. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine. Could you send out an email with the schedule of all these meetings?
Yes, I've been writing them down, making sure I have it all straight.
The dates and times right.
I will go over them here in a second as part of our closing, and then and hopefully I have them all. But otherwise, yes, we will do. I will do in my update this week. Include the dates. Yes.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, does anybody have any other questions? I guess I just, of course, wanted to say a couple of fun, positive things as well. I have had a lot of fun walking through the classrooms, especially when you're, diving into numbers and filling out reports, and you gotta take a step back and remember why you're doing all of that work. So I enjoy doing my building walkthroughs. I had a blast. Mrs. Gravely included me, and I got to participate in her reading instruction the other morning and really get to see the new curriculum in action. And that was a ton of fun. And then Mrs. Wishman's class, like every time I go in there, she's reading a book to the kids and they're just super engaged, and the paras are, sitting with the kids that need a little help with that. And it's just so cool. And so just to see all of them, and then to go from Miss Wishman's to the next to Miss Hoppy's, and they're all, doing the same lesson. So seeing that they're all really using that new curriculum with fidelity, and that's been an incredible experience. Christina and I communicate about that, and like I let her know when I've done a walkthrough so that we're not both charging in and out of classrooms. But it's also exciting just to be in the classrooms and be a part of that, and see the awesome science going on in middle school, and all the fun the fun stuff. I'm in the high school, so I often get to see the high schoolers and more of that. So it's just been really fun to be a part of the learning and education that's going on. So lots of good teaching, and we have a really great crew that's obviously grown a lot. So we're hoping to do some, positive behavior and plans and, climate and kind of where we can get everybody on board for those things, students and staff. And I want to do some work with the staff where I personally get to meet with, especially our new staff, and check in with them and some different outreach. So we have been having some discussions and plans as an admin team, and making sure that we get to do all that fun stuff. I know the elementary school did turkey bowling the other night,
Not
which
turkey, pumpkin bowling.
pumpkin bowling,
Pumpkin bowling.
turkeys, not quite yet. So yeah, there's fun stuff going on, and hoping to have more and more of that. And so that's all that I have for that. So I would just mention we have the November 15th board work session, special meeting the 22nd, and then the strategic planning November 28th. So those are the big board ones that I have written down besides our other events.
And then Chris on the 15th.
Oh yeah, and Chris is on the 15th. Yes.
That's December.
December, right, December, right.
Yep.
Mrs. Hedlund, we rolled out everybody using electronic time cards yet? For
So
Black Mountain?
most everything is entered in the system except for the brand new employees. And then we just need to go for it. So we will work with Casey and Steve to see. I know that Casey has a lot of great ideas on digitizing and kind of cleaning up some of those processes. The other one we've seen that's a real issue is our procurement. So things go to the principals, from the teachers to the principals, to me, to the clerk, to Wanda right now to get something ordered. And so if you can imagine the leg and the opportunity
It's reaching governmental proportions.
It is really kind of crazy. So we want we can do that in Black Mountain in like one step as well. And Christina and I talked about, we've both worked in schools where you enter your order information in Black Mountain, and then it's approved and the clerk submits it. It's
Extremely
like,
easy on
boom.
everyone's part.
It's kind of like a DocuSign system, for instance.
Yeah.
And
So-
you can decline, deny certain things, or if there's an error, it can go back. Like if I didn't put the right address or something in, or something was off, it could go back and be corrected by me instead of them trying to figure out who, what the company was. So
But we need to purchase that. That's an additional module to purchase.
I don't think it is. I think
it's part of it.
It's part of
what we already have.
part of the package.
It's never utilized.
We just have had the
Oh,
clerk
okay,
entering
okay.
all of it
I think the biggest
as
thing
one
is
of the
that
steps.
all
So
of our
realistically, then probably December.
And so unless yes, it would have to be December.
just because of our timeline, probably with our payroll.
Right. And I know that last time I talked to Christy about it, she was talking about trying 1 month with both systems in place, but I don't know if that's necessary or not. So,
Might be a good backup.
It's a
Yeah,
good idea. It's a
right.
good strategy. It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Just
It's
make
a-
sure it's working right.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work right, then you do have that backup.
Yeah.
It's just not a bad idea.
but the sooner the better. I mean,
Yeah,
if we're going to be training new people on payroll, as Casey's been being trained, I don't know how much you saw of the digital time card portion yet. But there is
Unfortunately, it's 0.
Okay, there is a training module that they will provide for that too, so we'll need to get you that training. I went through part of it, and I know Christy completed it. So we need to get you and I, and then hopefully the potential new clerk trained, and then get that launched. And why train in a system we're getting rid of? So I would just assume we move into the.
Oh.
You've done the paper system, so are familiar with that. And we planned on the assistant clerk doing payroll and HR. So, you know, I think you're probably ready to learn the next step being the digital and get rid of the paper, I would imagine. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and again, that double entry, so to speak, for a month, just to make sure that that's a really good strategy and to follow.
And then
Oh.
procurement next.
That cutover kind of thing, I don't
Killing
know.
us, so.
Yeah, cutover is pretty much.
Yeah, Casey and Terry, like I said, and other staff, we've been working with Joe also on whatever else we can streamline, and because we still have quite a bit of paper floating around here. So whatever else we can make digital, and even like the applications online or signing up for adult ed or those kinds of things.
I was gonna ask really quickly, and then maybe this is something for the meeting tomorrow, Sherry, is where are we at with our cyber policies, you know, our cyber action plan, cyber risk assessments, those kinds of things, because we've talked about them, but we really haven't gone anywhere with any of that.
They need to be addressed.
Yeah, they do.
That definitely needs to be something that needs to be brought forth, and if you're going over policies, it's a perfect time to add it to the agenda.
Well, my question would be, was the stuff, the consortium, wasn't Luke working with the consortium last?
He was.
Yeah, wasn't, yeah.
He was.
And did they ever go anywhere?
You know, it kind of did fall a little short with the Bozeman crew with having them kind of finish what they were working on.
Okay, but it didn't go anywhere.
And it's just kind of stalled.
Okay.
However, I know he and I have discussed this in detail, and we're absolutely ready to discuss it with the admin team and make it happen as far as the policies.
Because we're talking about insurance costs and additional costs, you know, around cyber risk assessment and all of that, so.
And that will be part of our site assessment. The cyber risk assessment was part of what she worked on with you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So-
I suspected so, I didn't recall so, but I suspected so.
Yeah, so that'll be good information. Maybe not quite as in-depth as we need to go, but a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a busy couple of months. We've got a lot coming up, so appreciate everyone's time and look forward to all the fun activities and performances and all of that.
All good? Okay. So yeah, next Tuesday night, we'll do the board work session focusing on the evaluation and whether we're going to change that or revamp it. That's the big topic for that. So,
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Meeting adjourned. Ed, I guess you're a transportation specialist now, just since we were going through all the